Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European crossover webinar. I'm running a little bit schedule. I had to restart my computer. I don't know if you saw yesterday, my internet went down. I ripped my cable up, and my bias chart, it didn't save my data. So I was over here just a few moments ago trying to update that. It saved the data from the day before. But let's go on and get started, and I'll be updating it while we're covering the news. So be just one moment. So we're seeing the euro. We saw a little bit of a move up here in the euro in the European session. I don't know if you were around there. I saw a little bit of a pop here, and also we've seen the dollar yen going and jump up. I had actually taken a short here on the euro, and right here as we moved into this area here, we actually just right in the 50, and I decided I was able to scalp a little bit on an ad, and then I still have that position. I'll see it. We're actually up against very key resistance right now. We'll also saw the gold market going and take a dip here. Let's go and take a look how we stand here with the euro. So here we are pressing up against this 1291, and we saw that jump up here in the Asian session, and we haven't done a whole lot with it since then. We kind of backed off a little bit and just kind of we're sitting around here, but that's a very key area here, this 1291 cable, relatively quiet here. Canadian dollar, we saw a jump, but we started to slide back down. Remember, that's that key area, that 33.54 here on the dollar CAD. And the peso continues to languish. It looked like yesterday we were looking at that around that 82-ish area, which once again I was updating my bias chart because it did not save the data. It actually saved the data from the prior day. Hang on. There we go. Update that at the same time we'll do the news. But here we are pressing here on the dollar yen. Let's go and take a look at that on the daily. The very key resistance here. Right up here against that key 1187. And it wasn't just against the dollar. We also saw the euro yen get a good pop here. Also the Aussie yen. Pretty good solid area right here. Looks like we could even break out. Try and push if we could get past this 1187. What I'll do is we'll go in and move into the news, and while doing that, I'll just finish updating this bias chart from yesterday's levels. Like I said, it's a little bit confusing. It has the levels saved for whatever reason. Saved the levels from the prior session before. Wait one moment. Okay, let's go on with the morning bid. Europe, ECB ponders options amid Eurozone gloom. As finance chiefs from around the world meet at the International Monetary Fund's regular bash in Washington, the word from the Eurozone economy is pretty gloomy. Der Spiegel magazine reports that the German government will next week have its national economic growth forecast for 2019 to 0.5% from 1% due to weaker exports in the wake of global trade tensions. That is more pessimistic than the 0.8% which the country's top economic institutes already slashed their target to last week. Such developments will put more pressure on the European Central Bank to do more from its increasingly empty-looking toolbox. Sources say that its policymakers are, for now, mostly skeptical about giving lenders a new reprieve from a change on their idle cash. The so-called interest rate options, but are leaning towards rewarding banks for lending to households and businesses by putting zero or negative rates on a new round of funding to banks. In the UK, smaller parties see the possible signing of European Parliament elections as a major opportunity, and Nigel Farage is launching a new Brexit party, campaigning in the city of Coventry, while the newly created Change UK party, formed by pro-Remain defectors from the main two parties, is racing to get itself registered in time for the May 23rd vote. Greens and Lib Dem parties will have no problems campaigning on a squarely Remain ticket, but the election poses more of a problem for Conservative and Labour splits, as they both are by Brexit in Labour's case. Some candidates are already saying they will be campaigning for a second referendum with a preference to remain in a very forward-leaning interpretation of the party's more ambiguous official policy. As far as markets, trepidation of the hotly anticipated U.S. earnings is causing a largely shadow over equity markets, with Asia painting a mixed picture after a weak lead from Wall Street. European stocks are slipping, with J.P. Morgan and Wells Fargo kicking off proceedings later in the day, giving nervy investors a chance to gauge the health of U.S. companies. Data from China is showing a forecast beating 14.2% jump in exports year on year in March, a healthy rebound from a dollar reading in February, as imports slumped 7.6%, though a much steeper decline than predicted, as progress on trade talks remained elusive. Oil is holding just above $70 a barrel. Meanwhile, the euro rose to a two-week half high on Friday after Reuters reported that the ECB might not be too keen to tier its sub-interest rates after all. The currency also found support from dealers. There was an anticipated increased demand for the common currency arising from a Japanese bank's plan to purchase a multi-billion-dollar aviation finance business from a German bank. In bond markets, yields are barely budging. German benchmark 10-year yields are just below zero, and reports of a further downgrade by Der Spiegel to growth forecasts of Europe's largest economy in 2019 are adding to angst over a widespread economic slowdown in Europe. Greek bond yields flirted with their lowest levels in 13 years. So let's go and move on now to the euro. I'll try and update that bias chart to reflect the current data. Okay, and the euro lifted to a 2.5 half high by speculative flows linked to a cross-border deal. The euro rose to 2.5 week high on Friday as dealers said speculators anticipated increased demand for the common currency arising from a Japanese bank's plans to purchase a multi-billion-dollar aviation finance business from a German bank. This probably would push the yen also lower. The euro rose because they'd be selling yen to buy euros if they're picking up that company. The euro rose to 12.89 after touching 12.94, its highest since March 26. The common currency also advanced about 0.4 to 126.23 yen. Dealers said speculators were buying the euro in response to reports on Mitsubishi's UJ Financial Group planned purchase of the aviation financing business of Germany's DZ banks of June last year, and the business stood at 5.6 billion euros. Pressured by the stronger euro, the dollar index against a basket of major currencies, Masafumi Yamamoto, chief forex strategist at Mizuho in Tokyo, expected the common currency to hold on to its gains. It's not really a surprise that the euro is capable of reacting quickly, potentially positive factors given by fundamentals surrounding the eurozone's economy are showing signs of improvement. This week, both France and Italy reported higher than expected industrial output in February, offering positive signs for the bloc. The data released on Thursday showed the first findings for U.S. jobless benefits dropped to a 49.5-year low. The greenback advance, however, stalled ahead of the 112 yen threshold. Many market players have taken a bearish view of the dollar after the U.S. CPI numbers released early in the week, but they were forced to abruptly cover shorts as the data proved to be strong, said Tayuka Kanda. The rise this week, last week's conviction, and remains to be seen if the dollar can sustain its bounce. The prospect of a rate cut by the Fed may have diminished in light of the data, but the economic views are not yet strong enough to support rate hike expectations. The dollar sagged on Wednesday after a mixed report on domestic prices, consumer prices, reinforced by the notion that underlying U.S. inflation remains tame. Volatility for sterling plunged after a midweek deal at the emergency European Union summit to postpone Britain's exit from the bloc. Canadian dollar edged up to 33.67, and the Aussie dollar traded 71.17. The Aussie is also weighed down by a decline in copper prices. Yeah, one moment. And just about completed on that. And we'll get on to the analysis. Okay, just completed it. I've completed those updates. Hang on. Here we go. I don't know why I didn't save that, but it saved it from the previous days, and that was going to be just confusing. Let me go on and delete that here. Okay, let's go and get started here. Start with the euro. So we're going to go and keep this 13.29 as we saw the deal with that potential purchase, or it looks like that may be going through that purchase with that German aviation arm, is it's actually pushing for some demand on the euro, which is actually pushed us higher. So in case we were to get that pop, it doesn't look, I don't think we get that far up here, but once again, we want to know where we could potentially push to. That'd be that 13.29 here. Support, well, really no changes here. Support's going to be that 12.44. Right in here, the 12.44. So there's not going to be any changes there. And with that, we're going to move into cable. The resistance continues to remain the same here, the 30.95, and same thing, no changes here. We found ourselves in a tighter and tighter range here in cable. You can see that here, and we're looking on the daily chart, and we're just tightening up quite a bit. 30.08, we had even moved it up from the 29.80. 30.08 is going to remain the same there, no changes. Right here. And on to the Aussie dollar. To 71.82. That's still going to go and remain, if we do get that push here, is going to remain the resistance. No changes there either. And support, same thing here. Not a big change. We've tightened up. Well, like I said, it's been relatively quiet, with the exception of the news with the euro and the yen. And we've seen these yen pairs. The euro yen really popped up quite a bit too, obviously. And let's go move into the dollar CAD. Well, we got above that 33.54, and here we are testing it again. Came right into this area here that we had for our bias chart resistance at 33.81. We've rotated a little bit lower, and I still like keeping this area right here at 33.81. We did miss the Kiwi, but we'll get to that at 33.81. And remember how this market has done very, very well on dips. So the 33.25 will still remain in a relatively tight range, but the 33.25 is going to stay in check here. So no changes there. Relatively quiet then. And 68 cents, and we're getting close now at this point to that 66.95. That's still going to go and remain our support down here, but the resistance, we'll have to shave that down here to 67.60, 67.60. And let's take a look where we stand here with the New Zealand yen. We are starting to push up a little bit higher here. And we had 75.31 as our resistance. We're actually looking like we're trying to break out a little bit. Obviously, all these yen pairs have moved up a little bit higher to start with. This is an area of a little bit of resistance coming in here. But we're going to go with this level up here, right here, which is going to be 75.54. 75.54. And support's basically going to come in right here at this breakout area here, or just about. You can see right there. 75 even. Next up is going to be the peso. This one I thought really had a lot of promise yesterday morning, and it did. It actually initially had moved higher. Initially, actually went right to, if you look here, we had 1893.6. And I even thought, actually I thought, you know what, that's probably a little bit silly moving it right there at that area. I mean, so close, I thought probably should have moved it up here. But that's just about what ran out of gas. It went to 1892, and we had our bias chart resistance at 1893. But I thought we were going to go on and really start to motor higher. I even thought that this was probably a bit too conservative, to go and put it so close. Didn't almost make that much sense, but actually turned out to be just right in place, because we had 1893.6, and you can see here the market stopped at 1892.1 and then just ended up rotating a little bit lower from there. So where are we going to go to now? Let's take a look here on the daily. This market has moved at extremes, but I thought that we'd try and put some kind of a bottom there and start to work hard, but it certainly doesn't look like it, and it certainly looks worrisome going into the end of the week. So support's going to be right there back at those lows. It's going to be 1874.5 right now. If we break lower, that's where they would try and challenge 1874.5. We can actually make that slide there. S&P's just popped up, so keep an eye on that. Resistance at this point, ratcheted lower, is going to be 18,897 as this peso continues to weaken here, dollar peso. Now to the dollar yen. Well, what got this going on is that news about that purchase of that aviation arm out of Germany. The key right now is going to be this 1187. Now, when we're looking at it on a 2-hour, now that's on the daily close. We're bumping up against right here, right there, 1196. So for right now, we'll just put 1196. If we were to slide back, support would come in right there at 1170. And next up is going to be the cash dollar index. We've mentioned multiple times it's 96.81. We're actually going to focus now on the 2-hour chart. We know 96.81 is huge on the daily. Well, if we do slide down here, if we break them lower, it's 96.62. The only reason the euro's up higher is on that news. And once again, if you came in late, it says the rise was due to a response to reports by Mitsubishi's UFJ Financial Group, planned purchase of an aviation financing business of Germany's DZ Bank. And that stood at 5.6 billion euros. So you've seen that big demand there. Now we know the euro comprises 56% or 56.4% of the cash dollar index. So certainly that could push. I don't think it's going to drag it to lows, although we may hit some stops, but it could be something that if we hit some stops when we start, that we kind of paring back. So I don't think it's going to go overboard. Let's go right here with this 96.74. 96.74. The upside is going to be right here. We'll keep that 97.13. Then on to gold. I'm not expecting a whole lot of fall through here on gold. We're going to go right here, which is going to be 1287. Right there. We'll go 1287 for our support. With resistance, our old friend 1304. That might even be a stretch here for that. Let's go and take a look here. Euro pressing up here against 113. We'll just call it 113 even. Oh, I mean to say 1300. With that, we'll move into the more interesting part here is going to be the cross rates. Let's go in here to the euro pound. At 86.60, which I think we already had that set up already. Yeah, we had 86.63. And support, let's come in right there. There we go. Got it right there at 86.09. Now one of our big movers is going to be right here, the euro yen. You can see us continue to get this bid here in the euro across the board. We're now at 1303 here in euro dollar. And this euro yen continues to push even higher. It looks like we're going to make a beeline to that 78%. And it's going to be 2668 and just a little bit above that, 2671. So let's go with 2671 here. With support coming in right there, 2621. Gives them a good target to make a move towards. And up here was to 2750. There we go. And there's a little bit of resistance right there at 62. So you keep that push up a little bit higher. And let's see, coming up next. Move into the Euro odd. And we had 57.93. Obviously, we're pushing even higher against this. Resistance would come in A little bit of volume coming in right there at 58.62. We're still, let's come in, we'll tighten it up just a bit here. I think we might have squeezed what we could, 58.45. Let's go 58.45. And for support, pull this just a little bit lower. It's going to come in right there. 57.80. 57.80. Euro yen coming up in here. And let's go here. Offset part of my dollar euro with this euro yen, exit out there. So hang on. We'll definitely continue to try and break out of this area. We had a little bit of stall here. We made one more extra little push. I'm not sure how much, a whole heck of a lot higher. It's certainly on a longer term basis, it looks like it wants to push out, but there's some good volume coming in here at 68.01. If it makes that extra little move, we'll go with 68.01. Support, just bump it up right there, 67.23. 67.23. Let's take a look here on the ASEAN. This has really jumped up in here. Resistance is right there at 80 cents, and that's right where the heck we are. Going to go with that 80.02. It's actually showing 80.02. We'll go with that. Support's going to come in right there, 79.60. We mentioned here, as I showed you, was we got the 78%, but there's that little bit of resistance. See that little volume coming in right there? You see that? Right, the little nibbles here, right there, 62. Looks like that's where the market has kind of taken a pause there. I'm going to go right there here at 46.40 on the resistance. Support comes in right there at 45.94. Just below that little area too, 45.94. Well, we kept our support. Remember, we went with this 82.31. We did get a jump up here, but we're going to go and stick with this. If they come down here to test that low, so we're going to stay with this. Well, it's still a ways off though. Tried to hold this area. This is where they have to hold. If not, they will end up breaking lower, which is going to be, well, it's not even very far from there. Yeah, we're going to stay with this 82.31. 82.31 for a test down here and see if that holds. So it's going to be 82.31. See, we've had that marked off. When we had 83.26, we bumped up and made a move up in here. If they compress up, actually, that was a good little level right there. You see that? 83.62, and that's not too far from when we ran out of gas. But we've already started to rotate lower now at this point. So it's going to be right there at 83.21. Oh, there you go. We had 83.26. And sterling New Zealand. This one's been that one that's been so tight, it almost feels like it doesn't even go anywhere. It's moving, but in very, very small drips. We had 94.12 and 92.83. Right there's resistance, actually 94.21. And this looking at super short-term basis on this one. Euro yen's continuing to slide back. Now we're at 26.52. This moves in such a small mode. We'll go right there at 93. Actually, I'm going to split the difference. 93.62. We'll continue to lose here. You see here on the euro yen. Doesn't seem like much, but as I said, if you saw that right there, it's a 62 right there. Doesn't look like they, at least it doesn't look like for now they're going to make a run at that 78%. Easing back. So we're allowing for that 13.29 here on the euro, but I'm not sure if it will move too much higher. And you can see here the dollar index isn't making much of a dip, and it's really just the demand for euros in that deal that's driven this market higher. Obviously, the euro yen, good demand there. Even the dollar yen did it poking up in here. But we've got, this is the bias chart for today. And I'll go and get that posted, and good luck trading. It's relatively quiet other than we saw the euro bounce up, but once again, factors from that that deal of that purchasing that aviation arm from DZ Bank. So obviously demand for euros, less for obviously have to sell yen to go in and buy those euros. So henceforth, we saw that pretty good move so far here on the euro yen. Okay, and good luck trading. I'll get this posted in the room, and thanks for joining us here on the European Crossover.